Welcome back, guys. My name is Brandon, and today we got to try to figure out how to build a wheel chock to hold a dirt bike in my enclosed trailer. Stick around. This is my 2018 enclosed Neo cargo trailer that I built. I did all of this, everything that you see inside. This is my mobile welding rig slash toy hauler. I built all these cabinets, these doors, had them powder coated, MIG welded these aluminum frames, and if you guys want to see how to do that, be sure to check out my video. I'll have links up above and down below. You can see I got a generator on board here. I've got welding tools up in here, and we're continuing to build this out, and I'm using it as a dual purpose rig, so it works out pretty nice for welding and for hauling toys, as you can see. I've got these floor chocks that are flush set in. My bike goes here, or a bike goes there. Another bike goes there. You see how we have these E tracks along this wall? Well, that's what these are for. These are a wheel chock made to put your bike up against the wall. Let me show you how one of them works. So what you do is you take one of these chocks, put it in, and then you'd wheel your tire right in this area right here. This is set up 14.5 inches center to that track from the floor, and that's what the E Track, or that's what the manufacturer of these wheel chocks recommended to set them at, and that's how I set these when we initially set up this trailer for this reason. So that way, if you had like a chock here and here and here, you could haul multiple bikes along this wall, and you could do the same thing along this wall. Pack them right in pretty much radiator guard to radiator guard, with the handlebars kind of like staggered back and forth. But the issue is, if I have a bike here and another bike here, my grandson's bike, his front tire is too small to fit in this standard height opening, so this won't work for a small dirt bike. So what I want to do is I want to build a bracket. I want this bracket to be able to clip in like this close to the floor, so a motorcycle could be put right here. Does that make sense? So what we're gonna have to do is create like a bracket that comes down along this floor. We'll have to take one of these apart and put this rig, this type right here, on the bracket that we build. That way it'll secure the chock, something like that, like low to the ground for a small dirt bike. Make sense? This is my grandson's 50cc dirt bike, so to give you an idea, you know, looking at this little tire, this bracket would be about that high up in the trailer, so it's not even catching the tire. So what I want to do is something low to the ground like this, where his dirt bike will go in like that, maybe like a 20-degree angle or so. Here's the E track that's on the floor, then this is the chock right here, and you can see it's got a couple little mounting flanges on the back. Then you can see kind of what that little bracket setup looks like. There's just a couple bolts that go through to bolt this bracket on, and that fits into that E-track. So what we're going to do is use some 2-inch by 3.5-inch flat bar. Just put a piece on the back of this chock so we can have something to bolt to, and then we can weld some 1x2 1/8-inch tube onto that flat stock. Then we're going to have to come down across the floor, and this is where the bracket will attach to this. So we'll end up threading that 1x2 and bolting this bracket onto that 1x2. And then on the back side, we're going to have like a little rubber bumper, because we're lifting it up that distance from here to here. So we'll need a bumper, a rubber bumper about that height, and then we'll cap the end of this tube so it's not open. And this is that 1x2 square tube or rectangular tube that we're going to be using. This is actually steel, and I could actually weld this bar directly to this, but then I'm going to be burning off all the baked on finish on this, and I don't want to do that. So if I make this bracket right here, then I can paint this bracket up, or even have it powder coated if I wanted to, and then bolt it right to this. I do know the measurement of this. Like I said, it's going to be 2 inches wide, and it's going to be 3.5 inches tall, but I haven't really figured out this measurement yet, or this one, simply because we can just lay that on our fabrication table and basically draw those angles onto this table and actually have a print to work off from that is our table. So I think the first thing that we're going to do, guys, is basically just kind of set this aside for now, and we'll just rough cut a couple pieces of this material to length so we can get a good idea of what our angles are going to be. Then we can put our angles on it, and then we can do this little plate last. But this is how I do a lot of this stuff when I do it in my head. I do a quick sketch for myself so I can see what I'm working on, and then I have something physically in front of me. And this fab table that I've built is 90-degree corners all the way around, so I can actually lay out and use this table to figure out everything that I need to try to figure out. So let's do that right now. After trying a few things and laying out a couple things, it's an ever-evolving process. So I don't ever try to tie myself into one specific way. If I come up with a better idea along the way, I'm going to utilize it. So rather than this being 1x2 tubing, I'm actually going to make this piece across here 3-inch flat bar that's 1/4 inch thick, and I'll just have to determine the length, and I'll show you the reason why for that. So here's the bracket that's going to clip in to the E Track. Okay, well, that bracket is just a little under 3 inches wide. So if I take my 3-inch flat bar, that'll cover that up perfectly, and then we can put the bumper back here and then have our 1x2 steel coming up with our chalk like this. I think this is just going to work better. I'm going to mark off 6 inches right there and transfer it across. This piece here obviously will be our scrap. Now if you haven't seen this, guys, I'm super excited to show it to you because this is the newest Evolution tool, and it's a mitering chop saw. This thing is awesome. So I can keep my saw set up this way, and the bed of the saw turns left and right versus me having to turn the base of the saw to accommodate my room here. This is just an incredible tool. So I'm excited to be able to use this because we're actually going to be able to use the mitering feature on this to do these pieces right here. We're going to have to figure out whatever these angles are, put it on this machine, and then cut them to size. So let's start by cutting this 1/4 inch flat bar, which will be easy work for this machine. You can see these pieces slide in and out. They're quick set, so just line up where we need to have this cut, which is right about there. Then we can slide this one down. And we can actually have nice clamping force with 2 clamps on one side right against this fence. Piece of cake. Make sure we're set on 0 here, which I've already set this up and checked it for square and everything. If you want to know how to set up this saw, I'll have a link up above. I just set this up not too long ago, showed you all kinds of pointers. This is an incredible saw. I'm going to give this a nice large radius, so I'm going to use a pretty good sized washer to do this. Now I'll just grind right to that line right there, to the line no longer is showing, and I'll have nice radius corners and we don't have to worry about hurting ourselves. If you want to see how I built this, guys, check this out. It's like 150 pounds for that base. It's filled with sand. I have a video showing how I did that, but it cuts down on all kinds of vibration because that column is sand filled. That's an old truck wheel down there. It's a pretty awesome build. Go check it out. So now I got this plate all prepped, and you can see how the corners are all eased, and I've wire brushed it so it's nice and smooth. Now we've got to put some holes in it so we can bolt that plate to this bracket. To get these holes marked out perfectly, I'm going to use what's called a transfer punch, and I'll show you here how this works. I'm just trying to find the right size that fits into this. Probably it's this one right here, I'm guessing. You see, these are all numbered in different sizes, and that's the size we want. So the way this works, guys, is that this fits evenly through this. And on the very end of it, if you see, it's got a punch that's ground into it. So that'll give you the exact center of a hole that you're trying to get. So that way you're not guessing where it is. All right, here we go. One more. And there it is. You can see the holes that it made right there. I got my mag drill all set up. And drill it out. Now I'm just going to mock this onto this. We got this now to clip in here. You can see that's where you'd have that little bumper piece, because that's how much that's raised that up. It's going to have force that's wanting to pull this out and push that down. So we'll have to put a bumper right in there so that can grab that. And to take it out, you just do that. That's it. Just like that. And now we just need a bracket to go from here down to probably like maybe here, this area back here, right where that little rubber bumper will be. To make this a little more manageable in the shop, we're going to cut this off just at a rough length of around 8 inches. Look at that cut, guys. Burr-free, not hot. Didn't leave sparks all through the workshop that I got to worry about the shop burning down. This is just an awesome saw, and it's super accurate. Alright, so we're getting a little closer every time we do something. So the next thing I want to do is find out what this angle is right here, where this is going to meet up. I don't think it's actually going to be quite 90 like I had mentioned originally. I'm going to have this a little more vertical, because that's how they are in the trailer now for the wall ones. So what I'll do is I'll take my angle finder, and this can be used for wood or metal or whatever. Super handy tool to have. If you don't have one of these, pick one up, because they are super handy to have. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of take a look at what we want for an angle. And that to me looks like a good angle. I'm just kind of like roughing it out and showing you what I see. Now we'll just take this angle. We can transfer it if we wanted to onto this piece of metal. Put a mark there. But better yet, we can transfer this onto our saw. I love showing you guys the process or the thought process that goes into stuff like this, because I'm a visual person. I like to see what I'm working on or what I'm building, which is why I like to put it down on paper first and then kind of start building it, and then I can kind of refine things as we go. Now the great thing about this tool is we can literally now adjust this saw to this exact angle. And if you look down here, all I'm doing is taking this tool, lining it up with the edge of this base right here, which should be in line with the blade, and I'll show you, we can check that. Then I look down here, and I see that it's 24 degrees. So if I wanted to duplicate this angle on multiple pieces, all I'd have to do is write it down for 24 degrees and set it. And I can make this angle over and over again. If we wanted to verify this, we can bring the blade down and then bump the tool into the side of the blade to make sure that it's sitting flush. I got a couple clamps set up here. Got that angle set on there, which just is a reference or a visual for us. Now all we got left to do is cut it. This saw is incredible, guys, just to be able to do this. Normally I'd have to have this saw base, I'd have to just keep swinging the base all around to keep this parallel with my room if I had longer material. It's just nice now it can stay set up in one place and just move the saw around and make duplicate cuts over and over. Super handy. So this is the next angle that we're going to find, and I'm just going to kind of again rough everything out. That angle right there looks pretty decent as far as I'm concerned. So what I'll do is hold it just like this and just put a horizontal measurement just like that. That's the angle. Looks like 46 degrees. I'll cut it off and we'll see if that'll work. That's pretty close to the angle that we have right here. Sometimes this can be the frustrating part of layout, because sometimes no matter how well intentioned you draw out your diagram, it just doesn't work out that way in real life, or you miss something, or you just don't see it. So I'm thinking I'm liking this a lot. We still got I've got this foot on order now under here, so we probably won't have that foot for this episode, that little bumper that's going to fit in here, but you guys can picture what it's going to look like in there. So that will weld to a plate that we're going to put there. I think that is going to work awesome. So now all we got to do is put a plate on this. So this is 3-inch flat bar. So I think what we'll do is we will just cut a piece of this 3-inch flat bar 2 inches long to fit right here, and then we can weld this all up because that's 2-inch wide tube right here. So that'll look nice just like that. That's going to work real well right there. We'll mark this at 2 inches. I might go just a hair more to give me some room to weld on the side. And it's as simple as bringing it right back to 0 again. That's it. That's simple. Now I'm just going to take this over to the grinder, round the edges a little bit, wire brush the face of it, and we will start getting this welded up. So I've got this all cleaned up, wire brushed, and I beveled back this edge on one side, just on the side for the bracket where the wheel chock is going to go. You see that right there? And I'll show you why I did that. Because this bracket is going to go on like this and like this. You can see when this is together like this, no problem getting a bead there. But here, because it's almost flush, and this is why I said I went a little bit wider here, so that my weld would have a place to go. So I beveled this back on the sides so the weld wouldn't be so proud beyond the outside of this. It doesn't really serve any structural purpose. It's more for looks, if anything, that I know that I'm going to have a fatter bead, so hopefully the bead here will be consistent with the bead size here, just because this has a place to go on the edge, if that makes sense. I didn't need to do it down here because the plate runs beyond it so much further. The one issue that we're going to have is, you see we have the 2 bolt holes here, that this plate doesn't extend down far enough to clear these holes right here. So it's going to end up actually going over one of these holes. So what that means is that there'll be a hole drilled here, and this hole that gets drilled will be tapped. So it'll just thread into this, which is no problem because this material right here is the thickness of a nut. So easy enough, not a problem. So the next thing we got to do right now is set up our welder. I get asked quite often, why don't I ever use my Fronius anymore? And some of you guys ask, do you still have it? Well, yes, I still have it. But the reason I don't use this all the time is because this is what's considered more of a professional welder. That doesn't mean that one of you guys that's a beginner welder won't go and buy one of these. It's just that a lot of the viewers that watch my channel are just starting out. So a lot of them are working with budget welders, which are, you know, like the Yes Welders and Art Captain welders and other welders like that that you can get on Amazon. So I have a tendency to feature a lot of those pieces of equipment because that's what a lot of you guys are buying and looking to get, so you can get started in your hobby, and then maybe someday you guys can buy a Fronius trans steel. Not a lot of people can come up with close to $3,000 right out of the bat if they're just starting out welding and they don't necessarily know if they like it or not. So a lot of you folks go out and buy a budget-friendly welder. They work great. And I've used these for tons and tons and tons of years. Not these specific welders, but imported welders and whatnot. And I've made tons of money with them. But then eventually I was able to save up and get one of these, and I love this machine, guys. Now, yes, this does weld better than a lot of cheaper machines because you're getting a lot of quality built in with this. It has a lot more features, welds a lot smoother, but yes, you can get the job done with this But this is just kind of like the Cadillac of welders. This is kind of like a buy once, cry once welder. You'll never look back and say, geez, I wish I wouldn't bought that welder. There isn't anybody who's going to own this that's going to say it's not a good welder, because they're incredible. They're awesome. And they're easy to set up, and I'm going to show you how to do it. We'll snap it on. We'll turn on our gas. Steel, stainless steel. We can just scroll down through and pick what we're doing. We're using solid steel wire. Then we can either set it by material thickness, by amperage, or wire feed speed. And we do that by selecting this button. So now we're at amperage. Now we're at wire feed speed. So we're between 1/4 inch, which is 250 thousandths, and 1/8 inch. So let's go to, let's say, 200 thousandths of an inch. So 250 would be 1/4. So let's call it 200 thousandths. We'll start there. That's going to be a voltage of 27.4. Here's your 2T, 4T mode. That has to do with your trigger. 2T is you just pull the trigger and wire comes out, you let off, and it stops. 4T is like a cruise control. Now we select our wire diameter. Goes from 23 thousandths all the way up to 45. We're using 30 thousandths. And then we just select our gas. And you can see all the different gases you can select. So we are doing C25 argon and 15 to 25% CO2. So that's what we're doing. Now if you want to purge out your gun so you can set your gauge, this makes it really nice. You just hit this and then you go right to the flow meter, and you can see that this is running right about 15 CFH. All flow meters are different, but you can see that this says that it's read to the center of the ball. So we're at 15 CFH. And then we come over here, hit it again, that turns that off. And if you do forget, this shuts off, I think, in 30 seconds if you forget to turn off this, if you forget to hit it again. So you don't have to worry about hitting it and then getting a phone call and walking away and then have your tank be empty when you come back 15 minutes later. This shuts off, I believe it's either 30 seconds or 1 minute. You can see for wire right in here, I'm just using solid 30 thousandths Lincoln wire. Now I'm going to fixture up as much as I can on this, get things held down and clamped in place. And if you guys want to see how I built this fixture table, I'll have a link up above and down in the video description. I built all this stuff myself. This is all budget friendly, including these table clamps that have been cut up from a regular C-clamp, and I turned these into fab table clamps. So I've got this kind of set up right here. I'm going to set this down right here on my table. Kind of got an idea of where I want it. I'm going to tack it on the underside, so that way you won't necessarily see my tack where I started and stopped. So yeah, when I talk about prices and I explain things, guys, it's not to you know, come across as arrogant or braggy or any other thing. I just want you to know that when I started out with the same stuff that you guys start out with, and there's no shame in that. I'm very proud that I started from where I started, because it made me appreciate the nicer things when you establish yourself and you start building up your collection. Just an example, this whip alone for this Fronius gun, just the entire whip, is like $500 to replace it. Everything on this machine is just super high quality. So I take care of my stuff, so this will last me a lifetime. I take care of it whether it's a $500 whip or whether it's a $15 whip. I take care of all my stuff the same. I try to keep it as best I can, so all my stuff lasts a really long time and I don't have to replace my stuff constantly. So, alright, here we go. I'm gonna just kind of center this up, throw a little tack on the bottom side to hold everything together, and then we'll check it for square and all that. Yep, that looks really good, guys. And we're good like that. So now I can go weld this out, and then weld the sides and the back. That is hot, guys. It's actually burning through real deep, so I'm going to have to turn it down a little bit. Not a bad weld, just really hot. So let's go to, let's say, 180 thousandths, which works out to be 178 amps. That's a lot. Let's say 175 for material thickness, 175 amps. Alright, let's try that. That was much better. You can see it's obviously very hot. It's glowing cherry red all the way. Typically you want to try to wrap your corners, meaning that you're not starting in a corner. That, let's say you start down here, go up and around so that you're wrapping it. That would be structurally, but we're not necessarily worrying about that so much right now for the structural part as we are just for the practical part of having it look good. So that's kind of what we're going for right now. So what I'm going to do is just do little short welds right here, then right here, and then we can weld this piece onto that base. Then we still got to drill and tap one of these holes and then make a hole in here, and then we can get this thing painted up and all bolted together. But yeah, this is going to work super nice. Like I said, when I laid out the trailer originally, I looked for these mounts right here for the tires and studied up on it. And I hadn't bought the kit yet, but I know that from the bottom of the trailer to the center of that E Track, this stuff right here, it needed to be 14.5 inches for a standard motorcycle. They also make a drop down kit for a small, like 50cc bike to grab the tire, but I didn't want to use that drop down kit. I wanted a floor kit, which is why we're building this. I think they do make something for the floor, but you know, I have the material and the time to build it, so I just soon build it myself. And who knows, I may even take this to our local powder coater and have this powder coated down the road someday if it ever gets chipped up. But I think if we prep this good, we shouldn't have any issues. It's not like this is going to be out in the rain and getting tossed around or any other thing. So, alright, let's finish welding this up. And I always like to trim that little ball off the end of the wire so I get a better restart. Alright, we got this all welded out now. We're good here. Wire brush it real quick. We'll clean it up better after. And now let's get it attached to this. So I'm just going to kind of visualize it right here. That looks pretty close to center. Looks pretty close to where I'd want it. And I'm just going to put a little tack on it and we can straighten it out after. That looks pretty straight to me, guys. I think we're good there. Alright, let's weld her up. There, now that's it for welding, guys. Now what we've got to do is clean it up and do some drilling and put it together, paint it, and try it out. Now we just got to mount this onto our bracket. I'll just mark it with a permanent marker. Couple little punch marks and we'll drill it out. I just got a little cheap tap and die set, and it's going to tap out one of these holes, this bottom one where we can't get the nut on because it's inside this tube. So we'll just tap it out real quick, make short work of it. If you guys have never done any tapping or anything, you give it a little bit of a turn, then reverse it to break the chip. Then you advance it and then reverse it to break the chip. You just keep doing that in slow increments, and the goal is to thread the hole and not break the tap off into the hole, because If you do, it's not a good day. Just like that. Yeah. And to hold that in just so it doesn't vibrate loose, we'll put a little bit of Loctite on it. The other one has a nylon lock nut. Alright, let's assemble this thing and see how it's going to work. So this one will go down right through like this and just thread into this base. Like I said, we still got to wait for that little bumper to come in for the back, but in the meanwhile, that'll give me an opportunity to paint it up and get it cleaned, and I'll show you guys what it looks like after it's all assembled and everything. It's probably going to have to be in another video just because I won't have the bumper for this week. Check that out, guys. Look how slick that is. So this simulates those ribs in the trailer, and all you do is just lift up this lat, slide it in here, and let it go, and that's it. I got my other motorcycle in here, so it's going to be a little tight, but we'll just clip it in. Oh wow, that is slick. Just like that. That clicks right in like that. That is slick. Oh yeah, even with this bike that works, guys, look. Oh yeah, perfect. This bike's actually big enough that you wouldn't need this chock. It's more for that little 50. But you see how that keeps that wheel from rolling forward, and then you can just strap it down with some straps. That is going to work perfect. And that's all there is to it, guys. I want to thank you because we're closing in on 100,000 subscribers. That blows my mind to even say that. But without you guys interacting with my content and participating and sharing it and liking it, YouTube wouldn't continue to keep recommending it. So thank you guys for all your support on the channel. I remember when I got my first subscriber, and then when I got my 10th subscriber, it was like huge for me. And then when I reached 100 subscribers, it was like crazy. To see us closing in on 100,000 subscribers is crazy, because when I started out this channel, I simply did it just so that I could interact with my children. We could do stuff together and I could bring them in on this, and now it's evolved to even more than that. Now my grandson's involved, so thank you guys. I appreciate all your viewership. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. New videos every Friday, so until next week, guys, I will see you then. Take care, stay safe, and God bless. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you.